Welcome to Delightfully Dysfunctional, a podcast about navigating the emotions of the human condition and the challenges that come with it. I'm Kaylani Persian Mason, a psychotherapist and life coach with James Timmons, an ever-curious human. This is not a replacement for mental health therapy. Please seek out mental health care if that's what you're needing. This is an opportunity for self-healers to dive deep and understand more about themselves. Welcome back to Delightfully Dysfunctional. I'm Kaylani, and this is James.
I am James.
I am James. And today we are going to be talking about imposter syndrome, which is just interwoven also to the topic of perfectionism.
Yeah. I'm excited because...
You're excited? Yeah, you came up with this one today.
Yeah, I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Me as well. Hi, I'm Kaylani. I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Hi, Kaylani. Yeah, and I dabbled in imposter syndrome. Experimented with it
recreationally. Well, then you made your way out better than some of us who are I've lived a tangled web with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to have broken free. So it's an exciting topic to get to have. I find that part of this podcast is also I want to gravitate the right types of clients that I enjoy working with to me. And that naturally happens as well. But it tends to be people who are really high performing and high achieving in areas of their life, and yet internally feel like there's this dirty secret of feeling as though there's some kind of a fraud. Mm-hmm. And that imposter syndrome really stops them from living a fully authentic life and feeling like they just carry that burden with them, and it bleeds into the relationships they have, the quality of the relationships, which at the end of the day is all that we really have.
For sure.
So, it's a topic that I not only know a lot about from lived experience, but I know a lot about helping others pull themselves out of that space.
Yeah. Yeah. In a couple episodes ago, we said something along the lines of like, I was sharing about how I have pushed people away because I didn't want them to see me at a low point, because it didn't fit with the reputation I was projecting out. Mm-hmm. And then I realized there are specific people. There are certain types of people who will love you in your mess, and they'll they'll say, "I don't care about what you're trying to project out. I see the real you." And so, I kind of want to like cultivate that culture here of like, you are safe with us, and I'm going to tell you all the things that I was once ashamed of, just so that it can be out in the light and we can all dance in our mess,
we can all dance in our mess. Yeah. I love that. We're not honest about that enough with others, and maybe to a fault. Like when people ask you like, how are you doing? Like I genuinely answer. And sometimes if it's hard, I'll be honest about it. Yeah. You also have to be careful about who you are sharing that with and whether they can understand and have enough depth to hold you in that space.
Yeah.
Versus sometimes there's people who just haven't gotten there, and it's okay to just go with like, I'm fine. It's good.
Yeah, there's times where like a stranger will be like, hey, like the other day this guy came up to me and said, hey, so how's life? And I'm like, do you really want to know?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to sit here and unpack it. I'm not going to lie to you though. And I was like, but I was like, it's all right.
Yeah. And I think, part of this is a small piece of imposter syndrome that we're talking about right now. Just how do you answer, how are you doing, basically, right? How do I answer that authentically if how I'm doing is like, how do you describe a car crash meets like burnt pasta meets like, all of the things that don't feel like they're working right in your life.
You just want to be private.
Yeah.
Like Dutch bros when you order and they go, what you out doing today? Like, what? Why are you asking me this question? None of your
Mind
business.
your own business.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Sorry,
you don't need
Dutch
to
bros.
know. You don't need to know.
Yeah.
So I wanna start with just a part of a passage from, this is called The Book of Awakening. I highly recommend it.
Okay. I love that you always have like a reference from a book. It's like it's so legit. Anyway.
It's so legit because it came from a book, folks.
I don't ever dabble with those. But
those book things. Yeah. What are those? It is essential to realize and embrace the paradox that while no one can go through your journey for you, you are not alone. Everyone is in the same journey. Everyone shares the same pains, the same confusions, the same fears, which if put out between us, lose their edge and so cut us less. So when you share about your mistakes, they lose their edge. They cut less, and they cut less for others who've made mistakes too. Yeah. It becomes a tool for healing when we can learn how to be gentle with ourselves in fully understanding why we made those mistakes.
Yeah. And it's because the shame will flourish in isolation. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing quite like a friend that can walk alongside you who says, yeah, me too. I know how you feel. I experienced something similar. And then you go, oh my gosh, hang out with me all day, please. I need you. And so like imposter syndrome and perfectionism, I feel like are really synonymous with shame and isolation, because it's like you have created in your mind this perfect image that really only you believe is because I remember when I was on the brink of my affair being leaked out to the community, whatever, I was terrified. I mean, it didn't turn out well for me, but I was so afraid that, oh my gosh, this reputation that I had built and, my outward image is going to be destroyed. And it was, but it's because like I was keeping secrets, I was not being authentic. So that's all I had to say on that.
I want to read a quote by Sean Anker.
Okay.
Perfectionism is not the path that leads you to your goals. It is a stumbling block, not a stepping stone. So I think we chase perfectionism to try and catch, excellence, and feel as though striving for that is honorable. I think some people feel that way.
Yeah.
And it's really self-abuse. It's self-abuse in the highest form, to continually shame yourself or to feel as though you can only be one part of yourself. It rips you of any creativity or any malleability to form who you really are. And it's putting on a pedestal whatever beliefs or misguided information, misguided input that you've been giving that thinks that you are not already perfect and whole just as you are. Whether that's, trying to reach or attain being a certain way because you're comparing yourself to someone.
Yeah.
Or because it's something that was said in your family. It's a part of the, you need to be this certain way and you need to be that way because of family culture. Yeah. It's a good time to choose what you want to strip away from your belief system.
Yeah.
Could be tainting what you are really meant to become, tainting the path of who you're becoming.
Yeah, because you're trying to like almost smush yourself into a box of what you think others want you to be like. But it's really limiting because, that like vulnerability, and I think you use the word malleability, right? That of like, because malleable means to like bend metal,
and shifting, and
there's a hammer involved. There's a lot of fire and destruction.
You're forging it. It's an act. It's an action. You are like, it's a visceral thing that you are in communion with doing.
Yeah.
You have to be actually actively a participant.
Right.
And when you're seeking perfectionism, you're not allowing yourself that. You're only allowing yourself if it's meeting, I will only change and grow if it's meeting these goals that I'm dictating to myself.
Right.
And not outside of those bounds. And it's a disservice not only to you, but to the world, because the world wants to know your secret something that's meant to benefit more than benefit all, hopefully.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. Okay. Are you familiar with like the refiner's fire?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So there's, when like a blacksmith or whatever is melting metal, it's in the refiner's pot, I want to call it.
Right.
And so like
molten pot of
right.
stuff.
So all the impurities float up to the top. It's called dross. And then they just scrape it off. Mm-hmm. So that's like the word refine. That's where it comes from. And so like to melt and like put on the fire and then remove the impurities, like like become strong. And then once it hardens, it's like that's how they create steel out of iron. And so yeah, and all that stuff is such a beautiful picture. The malleability, malleable, and refiner's fire.
And look at the process. It's such a process, isn't it, right? It's not like it automatically happens.
Right.
And yet in our mind, we have this goal of like, if I'm not automatically perfect, then I'm highly flawed. And I will shame myself until that goes away. And that's not how it works.
Yeah. It's like, just show us your, never mind. Show us your imperfections, because that's going to be really helpful to others. And
yeah. And I think sometimes people can live in such perfectionism and not even be able to be aware of the areas that they're held hostage by.
Yeah. Totally. Mm-hmm. I mean, and for me, in my experience, it was always just I was being ruled by other people's opinions, and I wasn't even all that right about how they felt about me, because when I failed, there was a lot of love and grace from those people that I thought were gonna like really condemn me, you know. So
leading up to my divorce, I viewed it as it being a big failure, and it's why I prolonged it. And in the end, it was a catalyst for me of something, it was me clinging on to an idea of perfectionism that was not going to be attainable with that person.
Yeah.
And, perfect is just not possible anyways. My marriage is not perfect. It is perfect and beautiful for me.
Yeah.
But like, we have bad days. We just are also kind-hearted and compassionate with each other and try to take that into account. But, learning how to be kind-hearted and compassionate with yourself is different. Yeah. And it has been through what I would have thought was my biggest mistake, I suppose, or, failure, that so much like beauty and imperfections have been able to bubble up to the surface and heal in like the light of day. Yeah. And that's how it's meant to be done. It's not meant to be hidden away. Shame hides things away and says you aren't good enough for this world. Yeah. For the world to see this peace. And you are a beautiful human. You already are. You already are. Yeah. You're already perfect. And not in the sense of the word that you might think. In just allowing yourself to be. That's what I mean. You're a human being, not a human doing.
Or human done.
Yeah, you will never be human done. Yeah. Apologies. That's not what we're here for.
Being is a verb.
I think we're here to learn lessons. And I think that the idea of perfectionism stunts those lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying, because my question for you is, would you say that your divorce, and you said you used the word catalyst, would you say that one season of your life presented the most lessons, like most information?
Interesting. I have to, no, I wouldn't.
Or one of them?
I'd say that the aftermath has yielded a lot of lessons, the processing of it. So I suppose maybe maybe you could say, yeah, but it feels like the processing of it. There were a lot of lessons. It was a huge lesson for me in how to not abandon yourself, because I was really good at that.
Yeah. I
was really good at giving to a fault. Yeah. And not attending to what I needed, or even knowing what I needed. Even the question of like, what do you need? What do you want? What do you mean? When I'm not like fielding and trying to attend to what everyone else needs and wants. I have no freaking idea.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, what I consider my greatest failure, I've shared so much on this podcast, is also my divorce and all the aftermath of that. But it presented an absolute treasure trove of information and lessons, painful lessons, to the point where I am a different person today than
I like this person.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the guy that I was trying to project out, I mean, like, to the core, I might have been the same guy, same interests or whatever. But no, like, I became so afflicted and hammered like the metal, that now I look at everything differently. I have a different brain. It's been reshaped,
This podcast used to be something that made my imposter syndrome and my perfectionist side flare up in the beginning.
Yeah.
I had to really manage it. It was part of, I know I shared pieces of it, but it was a lot of practice in like, keep it fun. This is meant to be fun. Keep it fun. And I've done that. I've kept it fun. It feels fun to be here and to have these conversations with you and with our lovely listeners, with our curious humans. I think for me as a healer, as a therapist, it feels really vulnerable to show the ways that I as a person am flawed.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I held on to that far too tightly for too long. And it feels really good. It feels really good to be in a much more authentic place of like, yeah, you can bear witness to the times I stumbled and fell. Yeah. I'm human just like you, but I will walk with you on that path. And I can hold space for you that is deeper than any space that you've known. And I can understand and I can empathize. And I am a communication ninja. And I can have faith and trust in these things and still be learning and growing. And if you happen to witness those moments, or if you happen to be a part of those lessons that I've had along the way, that's what they were. They were lessons. Yeah. That was learning.
Well, I mean, as somebody who has only been the client in therapy situations, I can tell you that before I ever started my mental health journey, every time I walked into a counselor's office, I thought this was a person who just had their stuff together, and they were and I was like afraid of being judged, But yeah, so I can only imagine that your clients that listen to this probably like, oh no, yeah, Kehlani, she didn't just go to school for this. She actually is she experienced a lot of the same stuff that we did.
Oh, I want them to know how human I am. Isn't that a beautiful healing thing to know? If I can't look at the uncomfortable places within myself, or the things that I've neglected, if I can't do that work, I don't know that I think it's sensed. I think that it's actually sensed by my clients. Then, you know, like it's been a shift even, and I've gotten different feedback from them. The more growth that I do, you're not like other therapists. Or, you just held such space for me, and I've never said that to anyone. Or
that's cool.
What you just said or what you shared, like it hit me differently. Like I can tell you're really passionate about this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really passionate about living life. I'm really passionate about waking you up to really live your life.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about love, that there should be more love for yourself and love for others, love for your partner, love for just, yes. So I'm cool with that. And if that means, you know, being in practice of keeping my imposter syndrome at bay by being so bold and vulnerable, then that is the most beautiful way for me to do it.
Yeah.
Then sign me up for more.
Yeah. I would go so far to say vulnerability is the cure for imposter syndrome.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's this, you know, rooted in such feelings of inadequacy and this unhealthy mindset around failure that it took me years to unpeel those layers, and it feels really good to be on the other end.
Yeah. And imposter syndrome, sorry to go back or focusing in on it, it shows up in so many little areas that you wouldn't even think about it until you can name it. Because, like, in the context of a relationship, we play that anxious attachment a dance, you know, through texting or whatever. What's the opposite? Anxious attachment and
secure attachment?
No.
Ambivalent?
No.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay. Anyway, we need Katie to answer that. No, yeah. So, like, when people, the anxious attachment dance of, like, texting, like, I've noticed that, you know, I play games when I'm communicating with somebody that I'm interested in with trying to project out that I'm not all that interested in them, you know? And,
yeah, play it cool because I don't want to get emotionally hurt and actually, you know, put myself out there and then be rejected.
Right. So I'm trying to be like, you know, trying to be something I'm not. Avoidant attachment is the other one.
So I think in a previous podcast, we went through some of the different types of perfectionism, but I think it would still be good to do a little bit of a review.
Okay.
So we've talked about the perfectionist, but if we were to give a bit more definition, the perfectionist sets these really unrealistic goals for themselves, and they're really plagued with self-doubt. They may find it hard to delegate or feel frustrated when someone creates a task differently than they do. I could have done it right. I'm just going to have to do it my way. So to really, and they're on a quest for the best, it's the pursuit of the worst in ourselves that they feel will allow for the best to shine through. I have to be aware of all of these worst habits of myself so that I can shield them and just let this perfect side be seen. And I'm very familiar with that. It's my terrible inner critic. It's much quieter now. It's much more friendly now. But to acknowledge your accomplishments and not disregard them. That's something that type of person can do. But also to understand, like, mistakes are just opportunities to get feedback or to be on the same page or to realize that people can do things differently. Like, being perfect isn't an attainable goal to reach for.
Right.
So embracing your flaws, I think that I've been able to do that a lot better. And I think this type of perfectionist can sometimes be a difficult one to live with. So, you know, in terms of, like, your partner being gentle or your kids, like, there are multiple ways to do things. It's more about, like, was there an effort put forward? Was there an intention? Not necessarily that it's done the way you think it needs to be done. So it's an acknowledgement of everyone else's learning curve as well, because this person wants to eliminate the idea that they even need a learning curve.
Yeah.
Because that would require failure and mistakes. And then they expect everyone else to be so dialed in to not afford that as well.
Yeah.
Then we've got the superwoman or the superman, convinced that they're phonies and live in fear of being found out. So their antidote is to do more work, overcommit, more everything. And can often turn into being a workaholic. Yeah, this is one that can be really detrimental because, again, we are not human doings. We're human beings. Mm-hmm. Being doesn't require an action. And so to learn how to get feedback and understand like what's constructive and not dwell on the criticism, that's something that this type of person would really need to work on, and to set guidelines and healthy boundaries between work and life, work life, home life. One thing that I've been doing, especially on my drives home, is just being really intentional with reframing my mindset so that I can participate with my family more wholeheartedly. Because I was guilty of feeling like either like, drained from the day, or like I had this to-do list that I didn't get to touch. And so that's weighing on me, and like just kind of coming in with a cloud of unfinished business from work hanging over, and that's not how I want to show up for my family. And so this is a ritual that I've created, is just really to like view and remember, what does it mean to rejoice with my family? Like to rejoice that I have them, to be grateful for them, like grateful in a way like I can feel it in my bones. I'm not just like grateful for my family, grateful for my kid, but like, no, when I'm fully present with them, there's nothing sweeter.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my like cherry at the end of my day. I wouldn't want to like skip over that.
Yeah.
But I have to prepare my mindset to be ready for it. Yeah. It's a step that is required. It is part of my ritual for coming home.
How do you do that typically? Like because it's about like a 15-minute drive. Mm-hmm. So you have 15 minutes to kind of switch your brain into that mode. Like what are some practices?
There's certain songs that I really like listening to. Mm-hmm. And then like, honestly, I kind of just like, I think about like rejoice with my family, and I think about all of the really cute, playful moments with Priya that I only would have noticed because I slowed down enough to see them. Yeah, I have a ritual of either listening to certain songs and music that helps put me in that mindset, or of just really kind of sitting and almost repeating like rejoice with your family, and like giving context for what that means. Yeah. Because for me, it means like slowing down long enough to like just savor all these little playful moments with my little girl, that and recognizing the temporariness of that, as they grow up. They won't always be doing that. Yeah. She won't always have that cute little high voice. She won't always like just have that big smile and want to like dance around you when you get home and leap into your arms. And so the only way for me to be present with her is to let those moments sink in and to slow myself down. Yeah. To realize, you know what, that to-do list can wait.
For sure.
And also recognizing like a lot of the things on my to-do list, it's still that like perfectionist part of me. And I say recovering perfectionist, but it's because I have to have a constant relationship with that part to make sure that we're on good terms is really more what it's about. And so, that part wants results much faster than I can give them, to be quite honest, and recognizing you're the only one who has that timeline. Yeah. Like you can adjust it. Yeah. It can be more malleable than what you first thought, and that doesn't have to feel like a failure. Mm-hmm. It feels like, honestly, it feels like a win if it means that I get to have more sweet moments with my family. Yeah. It feels like a correction in the right direction.
Ooh, I like that. Correction in the right direction.
Call me Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, no, that's something that one of the worst things that I've struggled with my whole life is not being present in the moment in front of me. I'm always like, yeah. So when I'm asking you like how you mentally switch, that's really more for me because I will bring work home and everything from my life. If I'm sitting there with my kids, I'm a lot of times drifting off into thought about something outside of my control or something in the future. And I'm not present, and that has eroded my relationship with them in a lot of ways. And so I don't know what it is, why it's just so hard for me, but, I think it's just lack of discipline in a lot of ways.
No, discipline doesn't. Well, I mean, I've created a different type of definition for discipline. I've spoken about this before, but it's refraining from. It's being able to refrain from the thing that you're wanting.
Oh, okay.
But discipline feels harsh. I wonder if we can find a way to be more playful with what you're saying, because being present is playful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it also makes me wonder if there's a part of yourself that slows down to that degree that feels uncomfortable. Like what's uncomfortable for you when you think about being that present with them?
Yeah. Yeah. Just to be vulnerable with that. I guess my fear, since, my choices have done a lot of damage to my family's structure, like my fear is if I make myself too, this is just me unpacking it in live, real life. If I become too present and too vulnerable with my kids, maybe, then I'm afraid of facing the reality that, or maybe feeling rejected by them, or I don't know. And so,
no, you do know.
Yeah. So I avoid it. Yeah. It's like an avoidant mindset.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to drift off into things that, maybe trying to make money or something, things that are within my control, rather than like facing the reality of rebuilding these relationships with these four little people. But then I know that if I don't lean into it, if I neglect it even longer, then eventually I'm just going to lose all the opportunities, and then there's going to be no relationship when they're grown and they can make the choice, And so, every time people talk about, your kids are going to grow up, you're going to miss out, I'm like, I know, I've missed out on so much already, So,
Do you think that they know that how much you love them and miss them?
I think
Does that feel too vulnerable to even open that up?
I think that they've inherited the same avoidance that I have, because I tell them every time I see them how much I love them, and I'll say I'm sorry for the things that I've done, and there's never really like I forgive you, Dad. It's more just like okay,
right, right.
And I don't know.
I think that our children are our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
And we're also, we're here to teach them too, but more than that, we have to figure out what lessons they're here to bring us.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful time, the age range that you have now, there still is that presence. Yeah. Right? And what a gift, and how many, you still have these opportunities. Yeah. They're not gone. Yeah. So I think part of it is this mindset of like, don't view it as the opportunity or the moment has passed you by. Yeah. It is right in front of you. And how can you greet it and realize that that's all that they're wanting from you. You know, what a gift to give them, like, your full presence and like your joy and your playfulness.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I feel like my kids don't want to spend time with me if I don't have some like amazing activity planned for them. But then a lot of times I'll notice that they just want to like hang out with me and like feel connected to me. Yeah. Like my youngest will always ask me to wrestle, you know, and then the other 3 will come and join in the wrestling.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, guys, I'm 42, you know, there's 4 of you. You guys are going to win. Yeah.
They like that. That's part of the playfulness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like rolling with it, rolling with just being like, what does it mean to be like playful with my kids again?
Right. And it's crazy because now I'm just sitting here thinking like they don't have a way to really like vocalize what they need.
Yeah.
But they have an instinct to sort of be like, I know that I want to wrestle with you.
Yeah.
You know, and if I avoid that, I'm really just doing them a disservice. That's a huge bid for connection. Yeah, yeah.
They're making those bids, and to leave them hanging or to be too distracted, which is a worry that I have societally because of our smartphones that give us so many opportunities to be distracted. Yeah. Usually on useful or useless in things we don't need. Yeah. You know? And it's a practice now that needs to be intentional for parents to recalibrate what it means to really be present with their kids.
Yeah, that's the key phrase, the bid for connection. Because I know that I've heard Gottman use that, and I've heard you use that a million times too. But that's something I need to really adjust my antennas to, is whenever my kids especially offer that bid for connection, to be really like aware and mindful of it, and then to always say yes. You know,
I think our tiny humans make a choice in who, you know, when they come down to this earth for this life, and they know that part of their task is to help teach their parents some lessons. And I think you should be open to what it is that they're trying to teach you.
My youngest daughter always asks for a foot massage, and a lot of times I'll be like, I'm not going to give you a foot. But then I'm like, no, I need to always give her a little foot massage. She's got tiny feet. It's not that hard of much of it's not a tall order.
Yeah. Like little piggy. I mean, like you can start being playful within it, right? Little tickle. I think that our children are our greatest teachers, and it's when we, you know, allow ourselves to slow down enough and pay attention. The world was not always this fast.
Right. Yeah. The world.
And we miss a lot when we think that that's how it's meant to be.
For sure.
That kind of feels like a good place to actually wrap up. There are more things that we could have gone over, but I really like the authenticity of that ending in that message. I think perfectionism can block us from slowing down enough to have those moments with our family. Yeah. And if you don't have children, this still can apply to you, because it's a moment for you to slow down long enough to think about, you know, what areas of my life have I been passing by? What areas of my life have I feel uncomfortable and I've been avoiding, or internal spaces that feel uncomfortable? Listen to that. Journal it out. Write to me. Tell me what comes up. Thank you so much, Delightful Humans, for tuning in for another episode of Delightfully Dysfunctional. We so enjoy creating and sharing this space with you. Truly, I feel honored. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with some friends. It would mean the world to us. We also still have our Ask for Advice out there, and you can write in and share whatever it is that may be coming up with you as anonymously as you would like. And we would love to be able to percolate on that and share you our best heartfelt advice. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.